I'm Bruce, and today we actually have a few things to talk about. Just yesterday they released Deadpools Diner, the new game mode for Marvel Snap. With that, we had Cassandra Nova as like kind of the highlight main reward you want to go for. She's a new card. She does really well into Airsham, which is the most popular deck I think the game's almost ever had, at least as far as like the popularity wise. And they also released the card Copycat. So those are the three topics I want to talk about today. It's been a while since I've released a video due to my own personal circumstances, but I did spend all of yesterday playing through this mode to unlock the card, unlock all the rewards, and unlock Cassandra Nova. And then I almost did a free-to-play. I refilled twice for 700 gold when I lost out all my bubs. But after going through this, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience, as well as I watched multiple other people, and I got accounts from multiple other people who spent money, who didn't spend money. And I kind of just want to spend this video to talk a little bit about the mode, and then meanwhile, I'm going to play a few games with the new cards and give my card thoughts as well later in the video. I'll timestamp both of those. But for those of you that are unaware or maybe had some confusion like what I had when I initially joined the mode, basically it's just another mode like Conquest. You click here, you're going to have up to 15 tables that all require a certain amount of bubs to join, right? So this is the total amount of bubs that's required to join. And I think one important understanding here is that this is not the minimum bubs wagered. This is the amount of bubs wagered if neither you or your opponent snaps. So how the game mode works is that instead of cubes, you're using this made up currency called bubs, and those will increment on turns 4 and 5 as well as turn 6. Like a normal snap, right? On turn 6 it doubles, so this will also double on turn 4 and 5, and they'll give you a little snap animation for that in the game. But yeah, so these are, so technically these could be 4 times higher if you and your opponent snaps. Based on the total amount of bubs you earn during the event, you'll slowly go up this reward track, and these will unlock stuff like credits, boosters, bubs, and then important thing, these bub refill upgrades, and these are the size of the amount of bubs that recollect when you run out. So right now I have more than my bub refill, right? I have 400 million, but like they increment, I think everywhere from like 1,000 to, I think the higher end is 30 million, and these will refill a little bit per hour up to 8 hours, right? So if you spend all your bubs and you cash out, you have to wait for it to refill, and these refills determine how upgrades determine how much they refill, like how high, right? So as you go up, you'll get more of them, and then eventually you'll unlock this bub mart, which is just paying money for bubs. These also count towards your total bubs gain, so if you wanted to, you could just pay. You'll see most of you, if you haven't completed, it'll be less than this, like it'll be 8,000 maybe for a few million. This is dependent on how many upgrades you have. That's why I think if you are looking to spend money, you probably should use the smaller upgrades in order to get to the points that you get these bub mart level ups, so that you can get more bubs for cheaper. This is something I saw people day one mess up. I saw a couple of streamers spend like 10k gold to unlock the new card. I think mainly because they didn't try and go for these breakpoints. I believe if you go and watch Cam Best, he did a very good job of spending the minimum, but I still think it was pretty close to 10k. I think it ended up being like 7k gold. But if you play a little bit, you can do it even free to play. I know that Jeff did it free to play, I think in like 5 hours. That is something that requires a lot of definitely good snapping skill as well as a little bit of luck. For me, I think it took 8 to 9 hours of just playing straight. I did play off and on, so I don't know the exact time on my phone. Also, I played all the way to the variant, right? So it took 8 or 9 hours to get this variant. I get the actual card 5 hours, and this is playing like almost perfectly, right? Retreating before the turn 4 snap if I didn't have a hand that I think would win me the game, or I was in a matchup that I thought I could instantly win. So those kinds of stuff is pretty important, because it's actually better to stay in the later in the game you are than it is like if you're gonna retreat, you should retreat turn 4. Basically, is how I would look at it. Is my main tip as far as retreating goes. Retreating later is a lot less value. If you're already pot committed to most of your bubs, you might as well stay, even if you have a 30% chance of winning. But that being said, if you know you have a 30% chance of winning on turn 4, you should just leave. But I think if all of us streamers are able to do this in one day, there should be not any issue at all for people that don't play that much, or maybe are struggling a bit for a variety of reasons. Maybe like you don't have that many good cards, or you're not just used to snapping. I think one confusion, and I think it's an issue with how they set up the bubs, is like the exponential growth does make this seem like it's very difficult to reach, especially Cassandra, right? That's what most people want, is this new card that counters everyone's either most loved or most hated deck. I honestly would look at this as climbing to infinite. Like, it is the numbers are exponential, but the actual time it takes is linear for my experience playing this. You're just, as long as you make sure you're just moving at a good pace and you're not getting tilted and wasting a bunch of time, staying in games that you shouldn't. I found myself progressing here at a pretty constant pace, honestly. I slowed down when I was around table, this table, I think this is like 13 or 11 or something, around 10 million. Sorry, so this is thousands. Around 10 million, I started slowing down purely because the queue times were so long, since I managed to climb up so high on the first day. But assuming as far as like actual games time takes, I think you progress at a pretty linear pace. So as long as you're like, let's say you're at the end of the week, as long as you're halfway to the 15 million, which I would say is probably somewhere around 15k, you're definitely going to get Cassandra. If you're like halfway along the track, maybe like 200k, you're probably going to get the Nova, assuming that you keep the same amount of playtime and at the same level. But yeah, so those are kind of my thoughts. I think it's, as much as I didn't like the mode, because like I said, it is literally just ladder, but with more stress, I think it is definitely very easy to get the new cards and that kind of thing. And yeah, it is kind of interesting that you can go back. If you want to maintain your bubs, it's actually better. Here, I'll show. If you want to try and never crash out, right? I was always playing at the highest tables because I was just trying to get the variant as soon as possible. But like if you only have 10k, you probably should be staying at either like 5k or 2k. Basically, you want to stay if you under the ones if you have less than double this number here, right? So I would play this if I had like 4 or 6k. Play this if you have like 15k, and then you can just keep playing. It might be a little bit slower, but you can just keep constantly playing. If you don't have time to just constantly play, you probably can just play the higher stakes, and I think it's fine. Like, you'll just have to come back in 8 hours or so each time when you cash out, but you will move in a lower amount of games. Not necessarily a faster pace, because you do have that waiting time, but it will be a lower amount of games for sure. Alright, and then yeah, let me play some of these cards and I'll talk about the actual cards, right? So after I unlocked Cassandra Nova, I pretty much exclusively played Cassandra Nova decks and Copycat decks for around, I would say, 4 to 5 hours, and then a little bit more today as well. I found Cassandra Nova to be very good in the Darkhawk style decks. You'll notice here, this is a deck that Cam made, and I think it was actually the best performing for me as well. Versus Arsham, I mean, she's just like a 320. You play that. You play Darkhawk, and it's just 2 lanes. They can never win, right? Copycat, on the other hand, reminds me a lot of Iron Lad, except you get to see the outcome before you play the card, which is a huge plus, and does get rid of instances where like, oh, it could backfire, right? Where it's like, oh, if it hits something bad, then it would feel pretty bad. Play Cassandra Nova, they're actually gonna redraw the bad cards, so it's actually kind of funny. I think Copycat will be a generic good card. I'd be surprised if she's ever like a required card, or something like super important, similar to like an Iron Lad, where it's like, yeah, Iron Lad was pretty good, but it kind of fell off as of late. This is kind of the new version of Iron Lad. I don't think it will have the same thing where it like falls off, because of the fact that it's a 3/5, and 3/5s are just better than 4/6s, right? It's 1 power less, and it has a very similar effect. If the better the metagame is, honestly, the less Arsham there is, the better it is, right? So like, if it's already doing so well right now, it's hard for me to see a meta where it will be worse. But yeah, Cassandra Nova definitely will be a more quote-unquote required card than a Copycat. Copycat's just kind of a generic, fills the generic good card role, in my opinion. So those are kind of my thoughts on the 2 cards. Cassandra Nova being the one you get for free, I think it was a good choice for sure. Because, yeah, like I said, it is probably more important and harder to replace than the other. Let's see. I think I might be dead here, but like I said, we're playing a lower table. I have 400 million. Here, we'll give this person some bubs if they need it. I don't think I need to play for here. I could just play this here if I really wanted to. They're gonna grow a lot here, so I might actually move over here and do like this. Oh, and I can play this here because this was growing 3, but this will shrink the lizard, right? But yeah, overall, I think the mode is relatively well executed. I think the main things that they need to improve are just kind of like the understanding of the mode. And definitely let me know if there's anything unclear for me talking about it. I think I'm just going to keep talking about the cards a little bit more and kind of my experience with them in Arsham matchups versus non-Arsham matchups. But yeah, the diner mode definitely can be improved. But like it's at its core, it's just like another way to play ladder that rewards you for retreating on turn 4 as opposed to turn 6, right? A couple tips and things that you should be aware of that I realized my opponents were doing to me is that if you snap at the same time as the turn 4 or 5 snap happens in the game, it's actually almost unnoticeable. Like, you have to pay very close attention if you time it correctly, and you can kind of sneak in an extra double on your opponent if they're not expecting it. So yeah, I mean, you could try and use that yourselves, or if you're just be aware that your opponents can do that as well. I did have someone that I was playing against that would constantly do that whenever they had a good hand, and I noticed it after the first time, but it's pretty toxic, but it is something you should be aware of for sure. I do hope that they make it more distinct in the future.
I am Iron Man.
But yeah, so one reason I like this deck so much as opposed to some of the other Cassandra Nova decks I played is because of the popularity of Darkhawk, right? And having these movers of Jeff and Nocturne was pretty important throughout my climb, honestly. And even the non-Arsham decks, like lots of people were playing Clog to counter them, as well as Darkhawk, and this is kind of, in my opinion, one of the better decks into other Darkhawk decks, and into Clog because of Kitty Pryde, Jeff, and Nocturne, right? You can put Jeff in the lane, Nocturne in another lane, and then Kitty Pryde third, and you can pretty much guarantee that the Doghawk never pulls something that's really bad for you, which I think is pretty important. Let's see here. Let's put this here, and then let it rotate around. But yeah, so as far as decks I played throughout the mode, this was actually the main deck I played from 15 million to 500 million buzz, from Casanova to the what do you call it? To the variant. And let's see what's still here. Still a rock. Sad, but now I know they don't have a rock at least. This probably won't Shang this because their hand size. Let's probably just play from it then. Trying to think how big their Mystique's gonna be. I guess I can move this. I need more here because they have run Ironheart in that deck. And then, but then for the other, very good. Yeah, nice. For the majority of the time played to get Cassandra, I pretty much ran a deck roulette of like, you can look through my last like 5 videos on the channel. That's pretty much what I was running through, and then I also was playing some Arsham as well. Like I was running Arsham, I was running the Darkhawk Sarah, I was running the Gwenpool double up deck, and pretty much just rotating through them whenever I lost or had to retreat or felt like I had a bad beat. I think you can really pick any deck for the mode as long as you have a good understanding of what your good and bad hands are, and you retreat or snap appropriately. Like, I don't think there's a huge advantage to any one thing unless you know and you're facing against a certain deck. Like, try not to play something that's directly countered by popular decks. I think playing Mill, for example, is probably not a good idea with Arsham being such high popularity, as that directly counters that deck. But Darkhawk, for example, even if you kind of have a loose grasp of it, could be fairly strong because of the popularity. But it really depends on what you're seeing individually, because for my aspect, I was seeing like the same 4 players, and 2 of them are Arsham and 1 of them is not. And when I switched to Darkhawk, the one that was not would sometimes farm me, and when I switch off of it, be vice versa. Well, that's a really good hit. Wow, that's actually insane. Oh, okay, maybe not that insane, but it's not bad. One thing that's nice about this deck in particular is that you can Copycat, and then you can shuffle stuff into their deck, and they can draw the Copycat card. And I guess I want to move out of here, right? So let's do this instead. And that increases her effectiveness, right? Mindscape, okay. This is interesting. I wonder if Hydra Bob moves on these auto snaps or not. That's not. Okay, so they would have to snap. That is good to know. Alright, so I'm just gonna dump my hand then, since we're rotating. Okay, I can't dump my hand. That's fine. I'll just play these 2. They can get a rock and Nocturne. That's what I'll have to play around. Right now, if they want to try it, they would have to try and fill mid. If they want to turn off the Widow's Kiss, and they would lose points for that.
Victory.
But yeah, definitely let me know what your all's experiences. I've been trying to collect it. I gave some ideas at the beginning of like the day one experience. I'll definitely be trying to keep the pulse on my communities and others throughout the course of this event. I should be back to a more normal schedule starting this next weekend. So if you're someone that follows my stream, you can definitely check that out. I should be back to a more regular schedule then. And yeah, let me know what you think about the new cards. I'll definitely try and explore some more decks. I think specifically with Copycat, but Cassandra Nova as well goes into a few different things. Mostly all Darkhawk related though. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Let me know if there's anything fun that you've been playing with the new cards. And yeah, I'll just call it there. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.